What's up guys, Boost Auto here. Today we're going to be showing you how to install these awesome rear passive entry door handles. These door handles are going to fit 2022 plus refresh 1500 trucks and 2024 plus refresh 2500 and 3500 trucks. So let's get into it.
Introducing our rear door handle passive entry upgrade for Chevy and GMC trucks. When GM refreshed these trucks, they removed the convenient feature of rear passive entry, which is why we created this upgrade. Our rear passive entry kit comes with all new rear door handles with passive entry buttons integrated. We offer these handles in chrome or paint matched to your vehicle's OEM color in our state-of-the-art in-house paint booth. A passive entry upgrade kit is also offered with our Ion series light-up door handles, so if you are looking to add some style to your truck, those are the perfect option for you.
Alright, so our first step in disassembly is going to be disconnecting the battery. But before we do that, we're going to want to roll our seats all the way forward so we can get as much access to this B-pillar trim.
Also, make sure that all of your windows are rolled up before disconnecting your battery.
With the seats rolled forward, we can now disconnect our negative battery terminal. If you have a secondary battery, disconnect the negative battery terminal on that as well. On the door panel here, we're going to remove our trim inside the door grab, and then there's going to be two 7mm bolts underneath that, along with one 7mm bolt down here. Alright, so now the only thing holding the door panel on is trim clips around the outer side. And so there's a little lip on the inside here, so if you just firmly pull on that, you can disengage those clips, and then the panel should slide up and off. One thing you want to note is make sure you fully clear this door lock lever before you pull the panel out. All right, now we're gonna release our door handle cable by just pressing this tab down and pulling out on the cable. Once you get this part out, there's gonna be this little slit on the handle itself, and then you can pull that cable right out. And then down here, we're gonna have a connector. You can just use a trim tool to pull this clip out. Okay, and then on the connector, there's gonna be a white tab that you're gonna wanna pull down. And then there's another tab that you just push down, and then you can pull the connector out.
For wiring, we will also remove the splash guard and speaker.
And you'll just want to be careful not to rip this splash guard as you peel it off. And then the cable will slide right through the slit on the splash guard, and then you can totally remove it. You're going to want to make sure to remove your door speaker as well. There's one 7mm bolt here. All right, once you got that bolt out, there's going to be one metal clip at the top. If you need to, you can put your finger in there or use a screwdriver to press down on the top of that clip. And then the speaker will come right out. And then you're gonna wanna take this little clip off here and then unplug your connector, and you can remove the speaker. All right, so now we can start to remove the handle. You're gonna pop this grommet out here, and then there's gonna be a T20 Torx bolt behind it, and that's what we're gonna loosen to begin to remove our handle. So now that we got that grommet out, we can start loosening our Torx bolt. And you're gonna wanna use hand tools because you don't wanna loosen that too much. And while we're loosening it, we're gonna simultaneously hold the handle open and just kind of slowly loosen it until you feel the handle pop out of place, and then stop. So now that that handle is out of place, we can pull it forward or towards the rear of the vehicle, and that's just gonna come out.
Now pull the door handle bezel away from the door to disengage the latch. Once disengaged, you can pull it out.
Now that we've got the door panel removed and the old handle removed, we can go ahead and start installing our new one.
First, make sure to switch the gasket over from your OE handle onto your new Boost Auto Handles bezel.
and you want to clip in this side of it first, and then you can just push it down and then come over. There's a little tab on the gasket. You're going to want to put that onto the inner part of the door there.
Before we install the handle itself, I want to bring your attention to this little metal tab. We want to wind this tab back until it is about flush with the white plastic piece. We are going to do that by getting back on the Torx bolt and loosening it slowly until it is flush. Just like that. Now we can go ahead and proceed with installing the handle.
Then we can feed our connector through the hole there, and then latch this front part in. It's just gonna push in, and then you can kind of start closing the handle, and then it'll slide in a little more there. And you wanna guide that part into the other hole in the door, and you wanna hear it kind of click in there. And then we can start tightening that Torx bolt, and you wanna just apply just a small amount of pressure on the handle while you're tightening it, and then you'll feel it start to close, and it should snap shut. And then you're just gonna wind that Torx bolt all the way in, and don't crank on it too hard. Once you feel it stop, that'll be good enough. Don't forget to add your grommet back into the hole. So now for the purpose of routing our wires, we're gonna wanna remove our front and rear sill plate, and then we're gonna wanna remove our B-pillar. So we're gonna take our sill plates off first, and these are just held in by trim clips, so you can just firmly pry up on them and they come out. And then we're also gonna wanna peel back our weather stripping around that B-pillar. All right, now for the to remove the front sill plate, first we're gonna wanna take the trim off the seat track because that's actually above it. So same thing as we did with the rear sill plate. It's just trim clips, so if you get behind it and pry up firmly, it'll just come right out. And now we can remove the front sill plate.
We're going to want to fully remove this sill plate. Make sure to pop out all of the trim clips, then we can pull back and take the sill plate off. Now peel back the weather stripping as well.
All right guys, with our sill plates removed and our weather stripping peeled back, we can now proceed with pulling off this lower B-pillar trim panel. And to do that, we're gonna pull this little trim piece off by the seat belt here, and then we're gonna pull back this upper trim panel a little bit, and then we can proceed with pulling the bottom panel out. Once you get the panel out, you can just pull yourself some slack in the seat belt, guide the bottom through the hole on the panel, and then you can place this aside. Now with our door handle installed, you're gonna have this connector coming off the door panel, and then you're gonna have your included harness. So we can plug in the connector to our harness.
Make sure to clean the surface in which you will be applying the adhesive clips with a contact cleaner before you start routing the harness.
Now that we're routing our harness inside the door, we're gonna use these adhesive clips to make sure that the harness is guided around the back side of this window track. So the first clip that we're gonna stick on is gonna be at the top left side of the door, right about there. And we can clip our harness into that. We want to make sure to bring the harness around the back side of the window track.
We place 2 more adhesive clips in the indicated areas to route around the window track and make our way to the factory window harness, in which we will follow to the door jamb boot.
Now that we've routed our harness around the window track and followed the factory harness up to the front of the door, we're gonna be going through the door jamb boot now. To get the door jamb boot off, we're gonna start by pushing down here and pulling out. And you can take the rubber part off, and then you're gonna wanna undo this connector by pulling this white tab out, and then you can simply pull the connector out. Now you can pull this side of the door jamb boot off. And then you're gonna have this plastic piece here with the wires coming out of it. And there's a little cap here that you're gonna wanna take off because we're gonna be routing our wires through the back side of this plastic piece. Now the easiest way to route the wires through the door jamb boot is we're gonna tape the wires to a straightened out piece of metal. Now we can feed that straightened out metal piece through the inside of the door, and then we're gonna poke it through the back side of this plastic piece that we previously took the cap off of. You're gonna go through the back side of that, and then you can start feeding it through the door jamb boot. All right, now that we've got our harness routed through the door jamb boot, you're gonna wanna take your wires and you're gonna wanna go through this top hole here. Avoid the bottom hole just because the clip that's on that bottom has a good chance of pinching the wires. So we're gonna go through the top hole here. Now we can bring the wires into the cab. So with the wires in the cab, we want to just try and stick to this harness here that's coming through from the door jamb boot. So we're just going to feed our wires through here. And we can pull them out by the seatbelt retractor. You're going to want to try and stick them to the front side of this retractor.
Continue to route the wiring along the factory harness, making sure to keep it clear of trim clips and the seatbelt retractor. Place it under the panel on the floor and route it up into the front of the vehicle. Once you have routed this wire, you can then repeat all of the same steps on the passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay guys, now that we've repeated the steps on the passenger side, we're gonna be tapping both the driver's side and the passenger side harnesses to the BCM. So with the passenger side, we're gonna have to pass our harness underneath the dash to the driver's side. So we can do that by taping our harness to a straightened out piece of metal and then feeding it through the underside of the dash. So we'll show you that now. So we're just gonna tuck it up here and stay as close to the firewall as you can. All right, then you can pull your harness through the other side just like so. And then once we got both our harnesses routed up here, we're gonna begin tapping.
We are now going to be accessing the BCM underneath the dash on the driver's side. It is important that we tap on the BCM and not on the LCM, which is located to the right of the BCM when you are looking at it from the driver's footwell. The first connector that we're going to be tapping to is this gray connector closest to the driver's seat on the BCM.
So to unplug it, you want to pull this white tab that I'm pointing to right now down. And then there's a little tab underneath it that you'll just push in and the connector will simply pull out. Now we're going to go ahead and add a T-tap to that wire coming off pin 28.
When looking from the back side of the connector pin, 28 is on the bottom row second slot from the right.
You can use a pair of pliers to snap it into place.
With our T-tap clamped on, we can take our red wire from the passenger side harness and strip it. Then we can go ahead and crimp on a single disconnect.
And then we can plug our disconnect into our T-tap. And we can proceed with plugging this connector back into the BCM. And don't forget the little white tab to push that back up.
Our second tapping location is going to be our third connector closest to the driver's seat. We will go ahead and unplug that now.
Remember, there is that white tab you gotta pull down first, and then another little tab behind it, press in, and you can simply pull it down. Okay, so on this connector, we're gonna be tapping to pin 28.
Looking at the connector from the back, pin 28 will be on the bottom row, third to the right. Now we'll go ahead and add a T-tap to the wire coming out of that pin.
Just use a pair of pliers to press it down until it clicks. At this time, you can take the red wire from the driver's side harness and strip that. And then go ahead and crimp on a single disconnect. Now we can just plug that into our T-tap. We can take our connector and plug it back into the BCM. And don't forget to click that white tab back up.
Now we will be removing the third connector from the firewall on the BCM.
Looking from the back side of it, we're going to be tapping to this very bottom left pin here.
Now that we've located the wire coming off of pin 24, we can add a T-tap.
We can just use a pair of pliers to clamp it down. So now we can take both the black wires from both the driver's side and passenger harness and strip the ends. Now we're gonna twist the stripped wire ends together and we're gonna crimp on a single disconnect. Now we can go ahead and plug our disconnect into our T-tap. And we can go ahead and plug this back in.
Now with all our wires tapped, make sure to tie them up under the dash, keeping them away from the pedals and any other components that may damage them.
Now that we got our awesome handles installed and the wires tucked away how you want them, we can begin our reassembly. All right, to start, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our B-pillar trim panel and kind of guide this bottom of the seat belt through that hole there. And then you kind of want to tilt it through the upper B-pillar trim panel, get it situated how it should be. Once you get it kind of into place, you can start popping the body clips back in.
Make sure the seatbelt height adjuster on the upper B-pillar trim panel is properly aligned before clipping back into place.
Then we can reposition this upper trim panel and clip that back in. Don't forget about this little trim piece that goes around the bottom of the seatbelt here. And then we can start putting our weather stripping back on around the edges. With the weather stripping back in place on both sides, we can go ahead and put our sill plates back on. What you gotta do is pop them back in there, engage all the body clips. So this front one, you got a bunch of clips on the bottom and two facing the front of the vehicle on the front. I like to start by engaging the front body clips first. Get those popped into place, and then you can get the bottom. We can put the seat track cover back on. And you want to make sure to do this last because this actually sits over the sill plate. Now we can move on to the door panels. So we're going to start here by putting the speaker back on. Make sure to push that red tab back in. And then this little clip will go back in that hole there. And then so the bottom is going to latch in first. And then there's that metal clip on the top. We just push that back in, and then we can screw in our 7mm bolt. Then we can put our splash guard back on. So start by this hole towards the back side of it. Thread the door cable through there.
Now put the inner door liner back on.
Then we can reinstall this bracket here. It's got an arrow that points up. There's two 7mm bolts there. All right, now we're gonna plug this connector back in. So push that in till it clicks and then push that white tab back in. And then this little clip here is gonna go into that hole just below it. All right, now for the door handle cable, we're gonna put that ball into the hole and guide the cable through that slot, and then you can pull this clip out, and then you're going to want to push that back in so that part there clips on to this plastic piece on the door panel. For the panel itself, I personally find it a little easier if you kind of pop the lock rod into its hole that it goes into on the door panel first. And once that pops in, you can start pushing it down and line up the body clips. Start popping those into place. And just pop all those clips back in. Now go ahead and put your 3 door panel screws back on. Don't forget the little bottom cover that's in the bottom like that.
Now go ahead and repeat the same steps on the passenger side. Finally, we can reconnect our battery terminal. After the battery is reconnected, we just have to change one setting in the infotainment screen to make our rear passive entry handles work.
First, you're going to go to the home button here, then you're going to swipe to the right, go into settings, go to vehicle, and then scroll down to remote lock, unlock, and start. Once you're in here, you can scroll down to passive door unlock. You're going to want to come in here and make sure that all doors is selected. Alright guys, so that concludes the install. So this installation video is pertaining to our non-illuminated handles, but if you really want to take your build to the next level, we also offer these awesome illuminated versions. Thanks for watching guys, we'll catch you in the next one.
The products shown in this video and so much more can be purchased on our website at boostauto.com. We're proud to offer a wide selection of products, parts, and accessories for your truck or SUV to take your build to the next level. To watch more videos like this one and to find out about our newest innovative products for your vehicle, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all for now. We'll catch you in the next one.